bridge in the continent. It's a mega project worth billions of rands. We're also constructing another bridge, which will be the longest bridge in the continent. It is happening now as we speak. These also are mega projects. We are planning again to open another lane with the Huguenot, canal, which is 3.5 kilometers long. Again, the longest in the continent, one of the longest tunnels, yes. One of the longest tunnels in the continent, even in the world, 3.9 kilometers. We surely need to open that one now. It will also be one of the mega projects. It will cost us billions of rands, but it has to be done now. And I always say, when these mega projects are under construction, it's important for any tertiary institution, for any student who is doing engineering, it might be whatever engineering, to visit these mega projects so that they can actually say we're part of them, we saw them, we engaged with the contractors, or we participated even if it was for a week. Because it's not always that you're going to have such mega projects. It's not always that you're going to have the interchange road construction that is happening along N3 in Pietermaritzburg, others again on the N2, and I want to believe that there will be some on the N1 even. So there is so much that is happening in the country along the national roads, but we want to see that happening even in the here in Limpopo. The R37 is under construction. We visited it with the president. It may necessarily not be a mega project, but it is worth of millions of rands. And this is what we want to see, South Africa becoming a construction site in the true sense of the word. So indeed, we also want to encourage coastal shipping and the migration of rail-friendly cargo from the road back to rail. The speaker from Zimbabwe, if I'm not mistaken, referred to dangerous goods. As a matter of fact, we're not supposed to have those on the road. These are rail-friendly freights. They must be in rail. And that is why, as the Department of Transport, we are saying we now have a national rail policy for the first time in the history of South Africa, for the first time. And the national rail policy, it says one important thing, that we have got to separate infrastructure ownership from operations. And in South Africa, this is the model that we have. So it's not like we're going to go to America and study. It's the model that we already have. AXA, for instance, owns international airports infrastructure in South Africa. But AXA is not the operator. So operators come, airlines come and apply to operate Puma AXA airports. And that is why whether SAA is doing well or not doing well, we're still able to fly. Because people can operate, they apply to operate. But it doesn't mean that AXA is not a state-owned company. It is a state-owned company. It's the same thing with SANRAL. SANRAL is a state-owned company. It owns the road infrastructure, particularly at a national level. It will be the same thing with provinces, because provinces, they also are authorities when it comes to provincial roads. But then if you want to operate, you operate. It doesn't matter whether your truck is private or it's an ambulance owned by the state and so on and so forth. This is what is missing in the rail sector. Transnet is both the infrastructure entity and the operating entity. So if Transnet is not doing well as the infrastructure owner, but also as the operator, then we have no rail in South Africa. Can I say here that, for instance, between Johannesburg and Cape and Durban, just yesterday, at least we're running 7 trains per day. Today we're running 3 trains per day. So we've not improved. And as we do that, it means the other 4 trains, therefore, that are no longer there, all that cargo that was transported in the 4 trains is now on the road. So whether we like it or not, will not be able to keep up with that. So the rail policy that is now approved by Cabinet is actually saying this. But also in Parliament, we have an important bill that is now at NCOP that says we're going to establish the Transport Economic Regulator. Two functions, access and cost. So it's actually going, if I have a train, I will go to the regulator and say, I have a train, I want to operate it, give me the operating license. You get the operating license, you operate. And we are saying, if this can be signed into law as quickly as possible, we're most likely to see the change in the movement of trains. Otherwise, we like it or not, we cannot cope up with the amount of trucks, whether on national roads or on provincial roads or on whatever. It doesn't matter how much money we have. If we're going to have all the trucks on our roads, as it is happening now, then of course we'll not be able to keep up with the demands and the damages that are caused by the trucks, because some of the roads are not meant for those trucks. KZN, for instance, people stone trucks around Pongolo, then they take any other road. A route from Beitbridge to Pongolo was a good road for quite some time. But now it's a nightmare. It actually means that we've got to start from scratch, constructing that road, to the extent they are thinking that it must be transferred to national. But it's because of the number of trucks that suddenly ahamba kuloyo mgwaqo. So it's things that we have got to come into terms with, so that we say, but we have a working model, own the infrastructure, rail infrastructure, operators must operate. Then we're going to see trains running on our roads. If Transnet wants to do that, itself is going to apply as an operator and allocate trains on the railway lines. I have a train, I can operate that. Then, of course, we're going to see this movement of cargo from road to rail that we've been talking about over time. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give an overview of the role of this entity that invited us to this meeting today, which is C-BRTA, which I must say that it's one of the agencies that we are proud of as the Department of Transport. That is that is actually reporting to us. In fact, it is our arm when it comes to implementation of issues. Its regulatory authority is that it was established by the Cross-Border Road Transport Act number 4 of 1998, and it is to improve the unimpeded flow of commercial freight and passenger road transport within the SADC region. It's cross-border transport. Introduce regulated competition in respect of cross-border road transport and passenger transport. Reduce operational constraints for the cross-border road transport industry as a whole. Liberalize market access progressively in respect of cross-border road freight transport. Strengthen the capacity of the public sector in support of its strategic planning and enabling function, and I like that function very much, to strengthen the capacity of public sector in support of its strategic planning and enabling functions, and empower the cross-border road transport industry to maximize business opportunities and to incrementally regulate itself to improve safety, security, reliability, quality, and efficiency of services. And I like that point again, because in the near future, I think soon, now in August, we will again be revitalizing our SANWIT, South African Network of Women in Transport. And we will now be saying we are focusing on different modes to say, if you are in the road space, how are you empowering women? Transport. So C-BRTA will also have to inform us as to how they're empowering women, because it says empower the cross-border road transport industry to maximize business opportunities and opportunities for women. So we'll actually be inviting them to come and explain to us as to how they are maximizing business for women from South Africa, but of course in the SADC region and in the continent per se. Furthermore, the agency executes its mandate through the following 4 core functions. 1, to advise the Ministry of Transport as well as other national and regional stakeholders on matters pertaining to and developments impacting on the cross-border road transport industry. And I can confirm that they do advise the Minister of Transport. Regulate the road transport industry's access to the cross-border road transport market, facilitate ongoing cooperative and consultative relationship, undertake road transport law enforcement. And for quite some time, this they could not do, but we are happy that they are now able to perform these important functions, which is law enforcement. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all aware that cross-border road transport industry is a complex terrain with major constraints that hamper efficiencies, and this is attributed to a number of issues. We meet with our truckers in South Africa, and they raise quite a number of issues, number of experiences that they have, lack of harmonization in the region, not knowing what to expect on the road, and so on and so forth. But I think these are the things that we are trying to address as the SADC region, so that when a truck from DRC, for instance, coming to South Africa, knows what to expect, as we do when we travel on air. I just want to mention, when you are flying, you know what to expect when you land in London, or when you land in DRC, when you land, you know what to expect, that I will have to scan my things, I will have to pay for this, and so on. You know. And this can also happen even road transport, that there is an expectation and anticipation that I will pay for this, and I will pass through this, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that is what is still very much missing for now, but I think we're moving towards that. For trade to take place between countries, there must be efficient transportation of passengers, goods and services by operators. This transportation and trade happens through a network of corridors which link different countries on the continent. To this effect, transport corridors play an important role in facilitating the movement of goods, people and services within the South African Development Community region. It is important also to note that 6 countries in SADC, namely Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Lesotho, and Swaziland, are landlocked and rely on coastal countries for a greater share of their trade. And that is why it cannot be that we are known for touching trucks in South Africa. And I think it's something that we need to talk about, because when we do that, we're not just banning freight for South Africa. It might actually be a truck that is traveling to Zimbabwe, but with the freight or goods inside that are coming from Australia, China, and so on. And it does not reflect positively to South Africa, because now we have got to inform the owner of goods, who might be anywhere in the world, to say, she's still in South Africa. But it might also be a truck that is destined to Zimbabwe, DRC. We've got to inform them that you are no longer going to receive your cargo or your goods. That is a problem. And I think it's a message that I think it's something that we need to talk about, so that people begin to appreciate the damage that such actions are causing to our country. Not that we do not acknowledge some of the issues that our drivers are raising. Some are very genuine, very correct, and they require our attention. But I think we cannot then be a country that is known for chaos and nothing. Therefore, regional road transport corridors play a key role in linking landlocked countries to fellow African countries, as well as foreign market via the main ports in South Africa, Mozambique, Angola, and Namibia. Many of these transport and development corridors, they traverse the SADC region and forming a network that binds the region together. I'm therefore delighted that there is a joint effort to work with law enforcement authorities from other countries in the region to promote road safety, as this will go a long way towards promoting road safety in the entire region. And that is why we're happy to have representatives of both Zambia and Zimbabwe here with us today. We really are appreciating that. We don't take it for granted. You have your countries to run, but you have decided that you're going to join us here today. We take that seriously and we appreciate it very much. Phase 1 of the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety, which started in 2011 and to 2020 just recently, immediately ushered in the current phase, which is Decade of Action now, 2021 to 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give an overview and update on the previous phase of Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011-2020. May I remind the House that preceding the declaration of the Decade of Action for Road Safety was the G20 and the World Bank back then endorsing the Decade of Action. At the stage, the World Bank was concerned that if nothing was done to make roads safer, road traffic crashes could become the 4th or 5th cause of deaths in low and medium income economies by 2030, with us, South Africa included. Furthermore, it was projected then that by 2015, road crashes will be the leading health burden for children over the age of 5 in developing countries. It was also projected then that the economic cost to developing countries is at least 100 billion US dollars per year. And indeed, this is very true. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is that ours, in terms of estimated adjusted cost of crashes for 2022, is about 198 billion rand, which represents a 3.29% of the 2021 GDP. Injuries place immense burden on hospitals and health systems. Can I tell you that there are people who, because of road crashes, their lives is dependent on life-saving machines, and Road Accident Fund has to pay for those from their coffers throughout life, but also has to pay for those who take care of such people. Again, this is a harsh reality in the country, as most of the healthcare centers are mostly full. And of course, this will include the Musina Hospital. Road crashes are preventative, yet in our case, the reality suggests the contrary. For instance, just in 2022, road safety outcomes indicate that 1.4% was attributed to cyclist-related crashes. 26.8% was attributed to drivers-related crashes. 28.8% was attributed to passenger crashes, and 43% was attributed to pedestrians. This is a problem, and I think it is important that as we deal with road safety, we also focus on pedestrians. Wherever you see a tavern along the road, you don't have to ask that is the area where road crashes. And that affects drunk people who have to cross. We build our roads, we expand them. Moloto Road, because at some stage it was known as a death road. So we added some lanes. But there are taverns on the other side of the road. And people now have to cross this expanded road drunk. Then before Bafika on the other side, they are knocked down by the car and they are dead. And this happens more frequently now. So whatever that you think you are doing, which is good, it actually creates another problem for you. And the unfortunate thing about this is that some of these roads, they really traverse residential areas to the extent that even if you are to think about bridges for people to cross, but you don't know as to how many are you going to build, because it's all over the country. It's not only the Mloto, it will not only be N1, it's not only N2 along Pongolo, it's many other areas. So you just don't know how to respond to that. We definitely will be adding lanes on the N2 as it has been said. But what does that mean for the communities that have got houses along the road and taverns on the other side, and people, they want to cross those expanded roads now? That creates problems for us. Indeed, these outcomes suggest that more needs to be done, and the road ahead is still very long. In that decade under review, South Africa had crash death rate estimated at about 14,000 to 15,000 people dying on our roads. And this includes the following that contributes to this terrible scourge: illegal speeding and alcohol abuse. You know, when I became the deputy minister in 2012, we were saying the rate of women drinking under alcohol, influence of alcohol, was at about 2, even less. Today, it's 38%. So women have joined men, and probably much faster than men. So it's no longer something unheard of to find a woman driving under the influence of alcohol. So we do face these challenges. Vehicle and driver fitness is also a problem, and road deaths are costing the country billions of rands annually, and yet road crashes are preventable. We're talking about road deaths costing the country in terms of rands and money, probably statistics, but hey, road crashes are causing family disintegration sometimes. A breadwinner suddenly dies. And in South Africa, the majority of people that die on our roads are young, educated men. Young. Go to university, they get NSFAS because the family is poor. They manage to pass, they get a degree, they're lucky to find job, they buy a car, they drink on Friday, Saturday. In the morning, they drive home, the car is in an accident, they die. It's a boy who, just within 2-3 years, was able to give her mother at least 5,000 rand. And the mother, for the first time, managed 5,000 rand, something that she may have never managed in her life. But that child dies again. So the family goes big to now depend on government grants because this breadwinner has died. And I think as we deal with these issues, it's important that we also target tertiary institutions and say it as it is, because the statistics are saying that. Ours is a story of a young boy, educated, working, owning a car, dying on Saturday morning, early hours. It's like that. That's the story of South Africa. And I think it's important that we raise these matters even in our churches, wherever we go, so that our children are aware of all these issues. Though we did not perform well globally, it gives me pleasure to report that the Department of Transport and the country at large made great strides toward the realization of these set objectives. Remember, we had said by 2020, we'll have halved road fatalities and road crashes. We did not achieve this. But let me say this. In South Africa, the average per day is that 45 people die on the road per day. That then takes us to something like 250 per week. And therefore you can multiply that with 4, and therefore it will be 1,000 per month. Other countries, Sweden, I just want to make an example. Per year, on their roads, they talk about 200 to 300, and they still want to reduce that. So when 5 people die on the road, everything comes to a standstill. Parliament sits to discuss that. In South Africa, 24 people die on the road, on the N3, on the N1. Beautiful, world-class, state-of-the-art road. But it becomes a site of accidents, of fatal accidents. Because, believe you me, this is true. People do not die on our potholed roads in South Africa. No. These crashes that happen, they happen on our national roads, our beautiful roads. The bus crash in the Eastern Cape that happened recently, it was on, I think it's something that is owned by Sanral. Beautiful roads, free. But then people just overtake and then you have crashes. So this is the challenge. People get excited when they drive on these roads, and of course, there may be other reasons for that. To date, the Parliament and the Republic has approved the National Road Safety Strategy, and the country has established the leading road safety agency in the form of RTMC, established post-care agency and of course we've got Road Accident Fund. We also have got Safer Roads Agency in the form of SANRAL, Safer Road User, RTIA, Standard and Safer Vehicles through the C-BRTA. C-BRTA says here today, I must declare them as this agency responsible for, I do that. And of course, these are the 5 road agencies that are responsible for working together to ensure that we reduce road crashes in South Africa. I'm happy that we are here talking about road safety. I said this in the morning because it is believed that we heighten road safety messages during peak seasons, like your festive seasons, like your Easter weekend, and so on and so forth. Indeed, we have got to respond to that because in South Africa we have a unique situation where people work in Gauteng and Johannesburg, and when it is festive season, they've got to travel from Johannesburg to Eastern Cape, from Cape Town to Eastern Cape, and so on. And therefore, traffic volumes increase during that time. So we've got to heighten that. But it does not necessarily mean that during other seasons, like now, when, of course, people are at work, we don't deal with road safety. But I think we can do better. I think we can do better. And that is why really I want to congratulate C-BRTA. I want to congratulate you for ensuring that just in the midst of nothing, when there is no holiday coming, when there is no long weekend coming, we speak and we come, we participate in this important flagship project, which is about road safety across South Africa and in the country. As I conclude, given this overview, I would like to call upon all stakeholders present today to join hands and in executing the Cross Alive campaign, which is our C-BRTA flagship project, which aims to promote road safety as well as to eliminate illegal cross-border operations, not only in South Africa, but in the entire region. I'm glad that this is a committed stakeholder effort and commitment by our stakeholder. This very event shows our commitment to the cause, and I believe that we can only achieve our goals when we work together as opposed to working as individuals. In other words, it is through collaborations of this kind that we will ensure safe transportation of passengers and goods across the region. I want again to congratulate the C-BRTA for this important flagship event and flagship project that they've actually introduced to all of us. And we support it with everything we have. And congratulations, C-BRTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I thought, Minister, MEC, Chairperson, that there was going to be a big round of applause when C-BRTA was announced as the entity that is going to lead what? Dangerous. Good. But Chairperson, I want to say this in front of everyone present here today, that you will have to give us money in order for us, and resources, in order for us to make that dream come true. We are so ready, and we are so excited. Thank you, Minister. The chaplain indicated that we must always be ready. Yeah. And I just want to, and we must remember, and I just want to remind all of us present here chose this month for a reason. And on behalf of the minister, you are all invited to our second road safety operation, which will take place from the 30th of August to the 2nd of September. We will indicate the date that the minister will grace our event between the 30th and the 2nd of September. You must all be ready. Come all expecting. There's going to be fireworks. We are now going to depart to the law operational space, where we are going to observe different activities. Can I drop one of the mics, please? Thanks. Where we are going to observe different activities. In the folders before you, there are 3 documents. One of them is the order of proceedings. It's indicating that we are all now moving to where the operation is taking place, where we are going to have the minister's parade. When we get there, there's going to be inspectors from C-BRTA that are going to guide us and tell us where we're going to park and tell us where the minister is going to park. So when we get there, everybody in the room will be taken straight to where the gazebo is. And the minister will join the parade later on. The minister will then address the parade, and subsequent to that, the minister and the entourage will be visiting the different stalls that are at the parade. We'll go and see the Cross Easy stall. We'll go and see the bus from Araf, which is called Wellness Bus. We're gonna we're gonna have a demonstration for Fatigue Tool, as well as Zambia brought their bus. They will show us, Zimbabwe, I beg your pardon, brought their bus. They will be showcasing what is it that it's doing and what is it that we can copy as South Africa going forward. Then we will proceed to Beitbridge, port of entry, where we're going to have a walkabout and allow the different stakeholders to address the minister on successes and on challenges and on anything that they want the minister to resolve. Subsequent to that, we're going to have a very short media briefing, and lunch will be served here. So after everything is said and done, we are all going to come back here for lunch. And I request that we all come back because we must avoid fruitless expenditure. And on that note, we are all going to stand as we allowing... Oh, sorry. I'm excited by the announcement that was done by the minister. We are now calling upon the councillor, Maria Mamedzi, to come and do the vote of thanks. After that, we will then be escorted to the operation. You are more than welcome, ma'am.